this is the GEC event for the Institute of Coding. We have, in true GEC Collective style, brought in a mixture of awesome technologists who are all subject matters in their fields. We'll probably all feel like imposters saying this, but that's what you are. So that's what you are, panelists. And what I want to do over the next hour is, because we've got such incredible role models here, I wanted to share your stories, to talk through sort of how you've got to where you are. And then, in a kind of exciting way, we have people here from business, from different age phases of education, inside education, outside education. So we're going to have a little talk about how we can help with those career pathways, particularly in closing digital gender gaps. The audience is a mixture. They are over 18s. They are a mixture of people going into university, places around technology, those who are thinking of changing careers, and those who are already in careers as well. So just so the panel are completely aware of who we're talking to. So what I thought we'd do is we'll kind of go around the gang, just do a very brief introduction, and then I will come to you and you can tell me a little bit more about yourselves. If someone else is talking and the rest of the gang over the hour need a comfort break or need to go and grab a quick coffee because it is early in the morning still, please feel free. And then we will have a talk about the business side of things. That sounds wrong. And then we will talk about the education side of things and then hopefully bring us all back together. My panel things normally overrun because I like to listen to everyone too much. So we'll just see kind of where we get to. So let's get started. On my screen, I don't know if you've got it in the same way. I'm going to kind of go around. Oh, Jess is here as well. Okay, cool. So I will ask Carol, would you mind introducing yourself first, please?
Yes, sure. I'm Carol Johnson and I'm the IT director at The Telegraph. And I'm also the founder of Women in Tech, Not Just Code, which is a new community that I launched at the back end of last year, which is not great timing going into COVID, but actually I think it really is. So I'm very excited to talk a little bit about that as well. So I've been at The Telegraph coming up for 11 years, and I actually started my career as a human email, as I describe it. So going from a human email to an IT director, quite an interesting career.
Awesome. We'll come back on that one, definitely. And Sarah.
Hi. I know, it's just like, oh, okay, you're coming to me next. It's always weird, isn't it, where you don't quite know who's where on the screen, and it's always different for people. But yeah, hi, I'm Sarah Jones. I work in a university, De Montfort University in Leicester. I'm Deputy Dean there in the Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Media. My background is a little bit strange, which I think is always the case when we can come on and talk about this, but when you talk about technology, particularly women in technology, they've come from so many different areas. So I spent 10 years as a television journalist working for ITV and GMTV, and then moved into education and ended up in virtual reality. So that's pretty much what I do now. So I do immersive story living as a kind of catch-all term for everything that I do.
Thank you, Sarah. And Sarah is someone I've kind of quite aggressively stalked, I would say. I'm a bit in awe of Sarah, and one of the things I wanted to do my collect people is I went for Sarah, so it's nice to actually be able to sort of talk to you as face to face as I think we get. So thank you for joining.
It's all virtual. Our whole lives are virtual, right? So it's fine.
Sarah, you're going to tell us all about it. Emma, would you like to go next, please?
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Emma Darcy. I'm Director of Technology for Learning for the Chiltern Learning Trust. So I work across 11 schools in Luton and Central Bedfordshire, including like primaries, middles, secondaries, lowers, uppers, all this sort of thing. I'm also on the senior leadership team at Denby High School in Luton, which is a mixed secondary school, and it's also an EdTech 50 school, and we're also one of the DFE's EdTech demonstrator schools. So one of the things we're doing now during this sort of COVID post-lockdown period is supporting schools across the country that have suddenly had to start using all these different platforms, suddenly start doing virtual learning, online learning, and that's proving absolutely fascinating, being able to support schools and teachers from elsewhere in the country.
Thank you, Emma. And I should probably say that the other thing that I'm working on is the EdTech Demo programme as well. So we can have a little chat about that. They'll tell me off if I don't mention it. Okay. Julie, would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, my name's Julie Walters, not to be confused with the famous actress, but I do try my best to be funny from time to time. I'm working currently in Swansea University, and I work, so I'm broadcasting from Wales, and but I'm originally English, and I'm married to a Welshman, and so I'm advocating mixed marriages at the moment. Anyway, on the tech side of things, I'm currently working on a project, a really big project, to try and upskill Wales, really, mainly working in schools and trying to encourage girls to take up a STEM subject post GCSE. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay.
Busy bee, and one of our newest GEC Collective recruits, and we've already done. This is our second or third webinar, Julie. Now.
I know, it's amazing. We've seen a lot of each other in a very short period of time, and at the moment I'm just so excited because we're doing our Summer of STEM, which is a virtual club online. And yesterday and the day before the first day, we had over 130 children join us for the virtual session, and it's so exciting to see all these little faces as well because they've all put their cameras on, and it's just been fab. So yeah, it's been a really busy week this week. We're doing it for 3 whole weeks, so it's just mad.
Yes. Thank you for coming and interrupting that to come and join us today, Julie. I appreciate it.
Nice, thank you.
That's all right. Becky, would you like to go next?
Hi, yeah, I'm Dr. Becky Sage. So I'm in a strange place in my career right now. I'm just moving on from one business that I've been CEO of for the last 5-6 years, and that is a company that works using immersive technology within the science, education and science research space. It's very much been part of thinking about digital technology in the context of education. I am currently, one thing that I really want everyone to check out is a podcast that I'm working on called the Mind Styling Podcast. I'm a co-host of that podcast, and I'm moving at the moment as I'm kind of transitioning out of one business and setting up some new things. I can't really talk about all of them right now, but it will be all about how we one of the things I'm doing is coaching and consultancy with other companies as I go through that transition, to really look at how we can maximize what we're doing and make sure that we're really inclusive and we're giving everyone the toolkits they need to thrive in the digital world that we live in.
Thank you. I'm just trying to sort Jess out in the background as well, Becky. So I'm going to go to Caitlin, and then I'm going to go to Kat, and I'm going to try and help Jess out if that's all right in the background.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin McMillan. I'm a teaching and learning consultant at London Connected Learning Centre. So I work with primary school pupils, mostly teaching computing and all things digital and creative. But I'm also the project manager as part of my job at the CLC of a project called Tech Pathways London, which I've been working a lot with Nick and the GEC on, which has been great, which is part of the Mayor of London's Digital Talent Programme. And it's all about upskilling educators, so anyone who works with young people, both in a formal and non-formal setting, about digital technology, digital careers. So we've got a massive range of different things going on. We've been working a lot on unconscious bias as well. We've got an unconscious bias toolkit for teachers to support them. And with most people here, I think, a rather unconventional route into working in tech, because I started my career as a clown. That's the most useful skill set for teaching that I've ever come across. So never really gave that one up, I don't think.
No comment. Thank you. And Jess, thank you. I'm so sorry that's taken you so long to get in.
No worries.
We're just doing introduction. So I'll go to Kat so you can gather yourself for a moment, and then we'll come to you for introduction after, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
There's nothing like joining an event and then going, someone saying, it's your turn, quick, go. And you're like, oh, what are we talking about? How's going to follow Caitlin when she just said she started her career as a clown? I didn't start my career as a clown. That's so cool. I am a clown, like just in everyday life, but I wasn't ever a professional. I wasn't paid to do it. So I also came to career in technology through unconventional methods, like most people. Well, most females, I find anyway. I was a scientist and then thought, what's similar to that? Technology, so I'm going to do that. And that's where I met Carol. And Carol and I worked together for many, many years. And we both became passionate about women in technology pretty much at the same time. And we started getting more and more confused about why all the CVs we were receiving were from men. And so we started getting active and doing stuff, and we did this amazing talk at Women of Silicon Roundabout where we were both absolutely terrified, but we accomplished it. And there was a thing that we went through with all the women in tech who were at the Telegraph with us, where we like admitted that we were women in tech because we weren't coders and we weren't engineers. But me personally, I had only ever worked in technology departments ever throughout my whole career, but I didn't think of myself as a woman in tech yet, which was pretty crazy. So that's what Women in Tech, Not Just Coders about, that Carol was the founder of. And it's a cause that I really support. We did loads of work in schools. We did this amazing project with these kids who we said, who wants to work in technology? And like, there were 4 like limp hands held up like that. You guys know what that's like. And then by the end of this 6-week project, every single one of them, like, who wants to work in technology now? Like jumping out of the seat. It was amazing. So it's a cause that we both really, truly believe in. And if we can get more women to come to tech through conventional means as a conscious choice, then that's our aim.
Nice. I kind of want to say more. I feel like it's because Kat and I spend our life in these boxes. I want to. That's really good what you just said, Kat. And then, okay. Cheerleaders and pom-poms. Jess, thank you for joining us.
Hi,
we met at the Festival of Founders. Is that what it was called, Jess?
Female entrepreneurs, I think, something similar.
That's it. And Kat and I were blown away. So, Jess, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Kat, that's so funny what you've just said. So I still don't think of myself as a female in tech, but I mean, I'm running a digital platform, but it's very much technology based. So I think I might be.
You are.
So I run a company called That Works For Me, which I founded about a year ago. And I, as I said, use a digital platform to bring together businesses that are growing and need skills and experience, but not on a full-time basis. And I bring them together with these amazing people who are looking for flexible and remote work. And that's all done through this bespoke built digital platform, as I said, that we started a while ago. Prior to that, I worked in insurance. So, I mean, the topic of gender pay gap at that time was pretty massive. I think I was one of 5 other women running an insurance company in the leadership team of approximately 200. So, I mean, I feel like this has been a lifelong battle. So, yeah, it's amazing to be here today talking about it. So thanks for having me.
You are more than welcome. And because actually the format's slightly different to what I thought we could only have so many at a time. And the fact we can have all of us, I think I might keep us in a bit of a huddle. But if anyone in the panel needs to leave for any reason, for children, comfort, or need a quick coffee or something, just let me know. And if you have something that you want to add in, if you just give a wave, I'll try and come to you next. Okay, so actually what I think might be a really good thing, we'll swap things around. Well, maybe if we've got time to talk about our stories later, but actually let's just start kicking things off. So there is a gender gap with the career routes coming in. And I because quite a few projects going on. So does anyone want to talk about, firstly, what their project is in a kind of a briefest way, but focus more maybe on what impact it's having, because I think that's really useful for those listening to hear that there are solutions and practical things that can be done. So who would like to kick off with something that they're working on at the moment? I'd go to Julie, maybe. Do you want to tell us more about what's your summer?
Shall I tell you about our summer? Yes, okay. So rather excitingly, we decided that the schools are closed. Our project is to deliver in schools, and in Wales, the schools closed on the 20th of March. How are we going to engage with the people we're supposed to be engaging with and encourage them to pick up GCSE STEM subjects? How are we going to do that? So we decided that we would do a summer school. We'd do a summer school physically, and we did one last year, and we were going to do a physical one this year. Obviously, that was all scuppered. So we decided, right, we'll try and do it virtually. So what we've done is we've given every day has got a different topic, and every day has got a different delivery officer from all around Wales delivering this different topic. And we just advertised it with the schools, and then we advertised it online. So we've done some Google ads and Facebook ads, and it's really gained some traction. We've had 600 people apply to join us. I was gobsmacked that we've got that many young people. You know, at the beginning we all said, "Oh, maybe we'll get 50. Oh, maybe we'll get," you know. And my goal was to get 400. So I'm the closest at the moment, which is really cool.
Julie, sorry to interrupt you. I will do this as well. In a very polite way, and I'm stroking you really under the table. But why do you think it has been so popular? Do you think that's the impact of it being locked down and people wanting things to do? Or do you think that's the topic? Or do you think the marketing was right? Or what do you think it was that means you've had such an incredible response?
I think it's that curious, you know, it is a bit something to do. I do think the marketing and the branding has really helped. Yeah. And we did start early enough. So sometimes when I'm doing these projects, you know, you go, oh, it's 2 weeks time. Oh, we haven't really got it out enough and we haven't got it broadcasted enough. But we did start early. We did some very good, and we did have some help as well. So we've been helped by a charity called Yellow Sands, and they said that they would pay for all of our press advertising. So a little bit of sponsorship as well. So that's been great. So they put adverts in all of the national press for us. So I think planning it went really well. Planning very early on. I'm still surprised at how many people are taking it up, but I think that might be to do with lockdown. It might be to do with the fact that people are looking for something different to do. I've been praying for rain for a fortnight as well. And yesterday it rained torrentially and I thought that was great. Because I did think the summer might actually, the sun might scupper what we were doing. But yeah, so I think that, you know, marketing, yes. The topics are good too, so they're quite catchy. Tomorrow is Wonderful Wi-Fi. Today is Codes of War. So talking about codes, but also, you know, relating to some nice, good topic. The first one was animation. So these are all things that kids are quite interesting. What I've been blown away by, though, is we did an hour in the morning, so 10 to 11, and we had a half an hour of questions and people stayed on for that. And then we set them a task to do and they had to come back at 1 o'clock with their thing that they'd done. They could ask some more questions and then present at 2 o'clock. The stuff that they're presenting is amazing. You know, they're doing an animation in 2 hours. You know, they're presenting something, and those are some assets that we're going to be sharing on our social media to say what they've done as well. So there's so much good that's come out of it, and it's really inspirational. But it's inspirational for us as well, as the people who are doing it, because we're going, wow, you know, they really are capable of doing an awful lot more. You know, they're really interested and very excited about it. I wondered if it would work in a virtual world. You know, putting this on, but it's working fine.
Sarah's nodding. Yes. Yes, that will work in a virtual world. What I'd like to do, we just had a question come in, and I'd like really to go to the people more on the business side, so probably Becky, Kat, Jess, Carol. What resources, places can you recommend for women who are already and have been in tech? There's a lot for newbies. There doesn't seem to be a lot. Much help resource network for people who are mid-tier or senior, someone like me. Kat, do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, and I think Carol will be amazing at answering this too. Can everybody hear me now? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone else can. I just can't hear you.
Oh no! Becky. Oh boo. So there's a lot of stuff like mentoring. It relies on you getting up and going out and looking for those people to be your mentors. That's something that I found. There's also a lot of meetups, and meetups are the thing that I would definitely recommend. There's a meetup about everything. So no matter what you work in, if you are a business analyst, if you're a scrum master, if you're a coder, if you're an engineer, it doesn't matter. There are meetups, and they're hosted all around the country at a variety of different offices. Lots of people just have casual ones. It's not something where you would necessarily go to listen to the subject matter being discussed, although you might do, but the networking possibilities there are endless. And so afterwards, people tend to stay around, have a drink, and support each other. And yeah, I guess from my experience, it all was relatively informal, and it relied on you kind of pushing yourself out there. And this is something that me and Carol experienced ourselves, because neither of us were like, we had to force ourselves out of our comfort zone because we were happy just sitting at our desks doing our work. But when we had to force ourselves out and go and network with people and go and speak to people that we'd never met before, and ask people to be our mentors, which could be a really nerve-wracking experience, but that the stuff is out there, but it will probably rely on you getting a little bit out of your comfort zone and going along to some of those things.
Yeah, I agree. And Kat, you did steal all my.
Sorry.
But what I would say is I couldn't agree more. The mentoring, I think coaching is another one. If you can get coaching in your employment, that's fantastic. That made a big deal for me. And actually where I was working, where we were working, there was a particular program for women leadership, because it's recognized that there is a different track. So that was great. One of the things, I mean, what's really interesting is that I'm an introvert, and people don't always think about that, but I really was drawn to extroverts because I see them doing things that I want to do and I can't do it. And so actually Kat and I working together was brilliant, because we would lean on each other, and we were both pulling each other, so we were mentoring each other along the way. We've become mentors, we've been mentees, and I think going to events and communities and really talking. But again, introverts don't always like to talk. We like to sit there and listen and observe and nod gracefully, and so it's a bit like me as well. But when you see someone that you can attach yourself to, it naturally happens. I don't think you have to go necessarily searching for it. It naturally happens, and things come from that. And I think that's what's been so wonderful about Women in Tech, Not Just Code as well, is that so many women who are already been in tech, been for a long while, and again, that sort of badge of I'm in tech doesn't always stick to them. They're building that community themselves and reaching out to others and realizing we have all been on a similar journey, and we are learning from the younger members who are completely different view on life, because what the boundaries have been released for them in so many different ways. So again, it's a really great way of drawing out a new perspective for everybody, that that the oldies like me are experiences that you can share with, but the youngsters are going, well, this is our experience, it's different, and we're latching onto it, and really a lot of creativity comes from that, and that's brilliant. I love that.
Absolutely. Becky, did you want to add in?
Yeah, I think I really want to speak to this because it's been so important to me over the years to try and find that. And I think one of the comments here as well has been about kind of senior women in tech. And I apologise if I reiterate anything Kat said, because I can't hear Kat for some reason. But for me, being a woman in tech, especially in leadership, has been a really painful place. And I think that it's worth recognising that. And sometimes it is very hard and very isolating. So absolutely reiterating what other people have said in terms of finding that community. And that's one of the reasons we started the Mind Styling podcast, was because we very much felt like there still wasn't enough of a diverse range of stories that were coming out. The kind of women in tech story was still just one story, or women in digital, and it was like we need to start seeing people as not a homogeneous group. We need to start making sure that the role models we're seeing, the stories that we're hearing, come from a really wide range of people and from many different perspectives. So yeah, I mean, do head on over and look at the podcast if that's something, because there's role models in there and there's people who you can connect with. And the thing that's come up for everybody has been this idea of network and finding networks, and doing that in different ways. So as people have said, mentorship, coaching has been really important for me as well, which is one of the reasons I've gone into coaching. But then also just really finding So I've done it through incubators and accelerators and things like that. So, and which as a startup business have been really accessible for me, and that might not be the case for the people we're talking to, but yeah, it's trying to really find those networks, which I think is just repeating a lot of what other people have said. But I think really, like I said, recognizing that there's often kind of a lot of work to do that needs to build up, because it is with some of us who've been in it for a long time, who have actually had quite a lot of challenges. It's not just about like enhancing the project that you're doing, it's about finding some healing and finding some kind of a strong nurturing community in a place where you might not have always felt safe, and that's not always easy. So yeah.
Absolutely, thank you, Becky. Yeah, and I advise everyone to look at what Becky's doing at the moment. I think what's interesting coming out of it as well, that even though you're looking at sort of mentoring and coaching, actually, if you've been in the system and doing the job for a long time, having a relationship with just having one other person to talk to, as Carol, you were saying, even having people less experienced, you can learn more in your situation as well. And what is happening in business is happening in education as well, when it comes to sort of young female teachers who are using technology, how they come in and improve their skills as well. The other thing
I would add as well is that it does take a little bit of you step. You can't rely on other people to do it for you. You have to make that leap, and that for me was probably the hardest thing. Recognizing, going, yeah, I can't sit here at this desk all the time. I've got to go and do something about it if I really want to progress.
Absolutely. Someone, the participants, just says a bit of feedback. So if you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself, please, on the panel, that would be helpful. Thank you. Sarah, did you want to add something on this as well about the mentoring?
I'll always talk, as you know. I never need an excuse, really. But I'll try and make it purposeful rather than just a ramble. No, I do think mentoring is really important. And what I think is probably quite important is it doesn't always have to be someone that you really associate yourself with, or that is particularly in the same industry. And I think I've had some incredible mentors that might be in a completely different field to what I am. And just being able to talk through things and get that external perspective, I think is really, really important. And they can be some of the biggest advocates, some of the where you get those challenges. And that's what you want out of a mentor as well. It's not just about helping you get the next job. It's about having someone to really challenge your understandings and thinking about why you might want to move on, or what kind of problems are you facing in the workplace, or in other parts of your life. So I think it is about having someone that you can connect with, but someone that's really going to challenge you. It shouldn't always be warm and fuzzy. I think some of the best people are those that really just get to the bottom of what it is you're trying to do. So yeah, I always recommend good mentors. And I think most people are really connected, particularly women in tech, and connected externally as well, having come in from different industries. And I mean, I'm always trying to help find mentors for people, as people have done for me. So I think if you reach out to people, then it's really, really helpful. All of us are kind of nice.
Exactly. We in the GEC, we like to be a little bit scrappy. We're a bit honest and brutal, and you can catch us at the worst times, and that's all right. And part of this is, I just put a link in now, we have got a collective of lots of other role models around different areas with diversity and inclusion, that if you are watching this and are interested in what we're doing and would like to speak to anyone, everyone's really accessible. We've put all the links and Twitter feeds and Instagram handles and everything, or you can contact people through us as well. So if you're interested in speaking to more people, please get in contact. What I think I might do is I want to speak to Jess, and then Sarah, then I want to come back to you to talk about HE, and then we'll move to looking at education with Caitlin and Emma. So Jess, what would you say? I mean, did you have mentors and coaches that have helped you in your sort of journey into tech founder extraordinaire?
So I think when you first decide you want to do something, I'm probably a bit more of a natural introvert. So the first thing I did, which was the worst thing you could possibly do, hid myself away in a dark room and did lots and lots of writing and put everything down onto this 90-page document, which, you know, was just the worst way. So don't do that. It's my first bit of advice. I found the meeting really changed when I was brave enough to put myself out there a bit and start going to events like the Festival of Female Entrepreneurs, where I met you guys. Enterprise Nation were fantastic. Tech Nation, have loads of useful advice. But the biggest thing has been being brave enough. So I had this really weird thing to start off with where I had this idea and I knew I wanted to do something. Then I had my 90-page document and then I was a bit like, okay, cool, now what? What do we do now? And I think the second that I started speaking to people was brave enough to say, actually, I've got this business idea and it feels like more than an idea. To start off with, you quite often feel like I just felt like I had this airy fairy thing that wasn't really a thing and that I couldn't really talk to people about it because I didn't believe in it. But the second I actually was brave enough to say, hey, actually, do you know what? I've got this business. This is what I'm calling it. I'm going to get it built. I'm going to look at all of my different options for getting it built. The more, every time I said it out loud and every time I had a conversation with somebody, it became a bit more real for me. So the best bit of advice I would give to anybody, following in a similar journey is tell people about it straight away. It sounds really stupid, but it goes very quickly from kind of this weird concept in the back of your mind to an actual thing that you've started doing something about the second you have a conversation. And I think that one of my other big learnings very early on was people were so willing to help. So people that have done their own thing, people that teach in this space, people that are in a completely different space but can give you a bit of help on it. Again, once I took that first brave step of saying to people, actually, this is what I'm thinking, I got a bit of a group together. And it then turned from, like I said, concept into the beginnings of a business. I used my contacts on LinkedIn. Again, once I was brave enough to overcome this shift from, I was an insurance person who then went and had babies, who then decided to do something else. Again, I had that confidence thing that I think a lot of people will have where I was saying, who on earth am I to just go and decide that I want to build this platform? Like, what are you thinking? But again, once I was brave enough to start saying to people, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm planning on doing, then all of a sudden it all started to kind of come to fruition. And still now, every time I put something on LinkedIn, every time I put something on Twitter, somebody reaches out saying, oh, hey, have you thought of this? Have you looked at this? And I've just been absolutely overwhelmed by people's willingness to kind of help and support you in doing something.
Thank you. I'm sorry for feedback and where mics aren't working. There's not much I can do about it at the moment. What I would suggest, if you are listening, you go in and out of it. Turn it on and off again, I'm afraid, is the only advice I can give at the moment. So I do apologise. Sarah, what I'd like to do is speak to you now about what's going on at sort of like university level and what you're seeing with any sort of gender gaps in your area. Is there anything that stands out to you?
No, I think what's really interesting listening to this conversation really is the whole introvert-extrovert conversation, which a few people have touched on. And I always identify myself as that kind of extroverted introvert. I want to hide away and I want to do my jigsaw puzzle and drink my gin by myself. But then I worked in television and all this kind of stuff. And, I shout around talking about immersive reality all the time. But I think it's really interesting. So it's kind of that embrace your your Beyonce Sasha Fierce kind of thing and go get it. Well, you can fake it till you make it, which is what I usually tell all of my students, interestingly. And I've worked in higher education for 10 years now, and the big problem I find with so many of my students who are so creative and curious and have everything that you want them to be, but they all have that deep set anxiety and fear. And so many times I've told them to fake it till they make it and just put on that face and go get it and believe in yourself. And I think that's really the problem. So now I work in a faculty of computing, engineering and media, so huge diverse range of subjects from aeronautical engineer to animation. but still, you know, the students have that fear, and it is predominantly the female students who don't think they're good enough. So it's about kind of building them up and working out how you can do that. So we've been developing a STEM group across the faculty for all of our students with mentors, because that's really important. It's about having coaching, it's about those specific opportunities, and a safe place, a safe space where they feel that they can talk through those concerns. So it's about putting the support mechanisms in place and just really, really making sure that we're helping people to believe, we're helping them to find a place in the world. You know, they've got to see it to be it, and all those kinds of things. It's always the stereotypes, it's always the typical sayings that you just hate to repeat, but it's true. You know, you need to shout more when you are in those positions of authority or leadership roles within tech to really help that pipeline. I'll keep quiet.
Yeah, no, it's all great. I want to talk for about 2 hours each at the moment. It's just like I keep going, oh, I've got a really thing I want to ask about women in tech. And everyone can answer it. So Becky, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think something that we still need to be really conscious of is, you know, we say women don't think they're good enough. But the issue is that because we have to shout louder, because we have to raise our head above the parapet, because we're tokenized, because we, you know, have to, we kind of have to be better. Otherwise we get shot down. And I think that there's still such a major cultural change that is required in most organizations to ensure that that we're no longer in that situation. So I think all the things you're saying, Sarah, are completely great, which is to build that resilience, build that support, making sure that the kind of foundations and the support networks that people have, that women have as they step through these careers are really strong, but recognizing that we don't get to be average and walk through, or we don't get to sometimes I don't know, make a point that is that raises us above, raises our head above, disagrees with something, whatever it might be, because there can actually be really big consequences for women that do that in male dominated industries. And so I think that I'm sorry to be like super negative, but I think there's still so much cultural change that we need to do. And of course, this is finding the safe spaces. That's certainly been what's so important to me, and finding all those spaces where I was with, you know, my affinity group basically was what I needed to do to be able to step out and no longer feel like I was just living up to kind of what the men needed me to be, because that's what I've done throughout a lot of my career, as opposed to kind of coming back in and really being who I needed me to be. So so there is a lot of work for all of us to do, and I think a lot of that is also championing, as we are here, championing things that look like a different version of success, and not always having, you know, like I said, kind of trying to live up to these pre-existing structures and these pre-existing versions of success, because, and that's what we all together, you know, can do, and that's what the networks and these safety mechanisms, these safe spaces, I think are so important for.
Absolutely. I think Kat, there's quite a bit of chat going on the side. Do you want to pick up on that at all?
Yeah, we're just talking about BAME women. Not everybody likes the acronym BAME. Not everyone likes BIPOC, people of colour, basically people who have historically been marginalised. And race is such a huge topic at the moment. The racial tensions are bubbling over everywhere, rightly so. This is something that Carol and I have talked a lot, and Carol and Nick have talked a lot, and me and Nick have talked a lot. And Fem was just mentioning that BAME women feel driven out of tech. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation. I was on an anti-racism webinar yesterday. And yeah, I mean, do we want to get into that right now? Maybe we could.
I think maybe it's worth talking about, isn't it? Because I think what Kat and I have realised quite early on, when you're talking about gender, you're talking, it kind of almost is like the core characteristics but you can't really talk about equality, I think, in any industry without talking about diversity and inclusion. And I think it sometimes can almost be the bit no one really wants to talk about in these areas. So I think we should, Kat. I think we should just have a little bit of what's going on.
The uncomfortable thing at the moment is we are an all-white panel, so I think we should probably give ourselves a slap on the wrist for that. Definitely a slap on the wrist for that. But I think that we found a lot of parallels between the stuff that we're talking about for women and the stuff that we've been talking to our Black friends and colleagues about. So the things you experience as a female, like there are parallels, there are obvious nuances and differences, and the experience is different. But I think that when white feminism has been a thing, and we have fallen into the trap of talking about feminism and women in tech, when actually, do we really mean white women in tech? Do we mean women like me in tech? And are we actually thinking outside of ourselves and not focusing on just our own barriers to cross, but actually reaching out and bringing everyone else along? And just, I think that is a really important thing to do. I think that we're all getting used to this new world where we're looking around and going, who's missing? So immediately when we got onto this panel, I thought, everyone's white. Everyone is white, and we've fallen into the trap of it again because we move in these circles and we haven't been consciously thinking about it, and we haven't been getting our butts kicked about it, and we should be kicking our own butts about it. And I think I do think the solution is, like men have learned to do, look around and go, hang on, there's no women in this room. We now, as white women, need to look around and go, hang on a minute, there's only white people here. Where's the other representation? So I think that responsibility is on us, as we are further up the rungs of oppression than, say, a person at an intersection of many different protected characteristics. So I think that we need to bear that responsibility as well, and realise that actually we are super duper privileged to be, yes, we're female, and that in itself has its barriers, but we are privileged to be white, and I think we need to just have a think about turning around and helping up our sisters.
Absolutely. Does anyone else want to add anything on that at all? Bit quiet. I mean, what I've found in the last few weeks is that I've been able to contact more. Kat normally does our sort of the business side of GEC, and I do the education, and I've been able to contact a lot more organisations that have Black people of colour, BAME, at the head of them, and that they're linking and they're helping us learn. And that means then we're getting to speak to those people. I don't have many acquaintances in EdTech that are, that we could bring in today, sadly. So I hope the next time we do there is a change. One of the things that I have been able to look at, though, is around disability and accessible tech. I think there's still huge issues with that in education, and the tech, which is a bit of a shame that it is not being brought in. What I might do is go to now our educational colleagues and talk to them about what they think about the gender gap, and what I think maybe if we focus first on the female teachers, and then we could look at the girls in school. So Caitlin, would you like to talk a little bit about what you think helps?
Yeah. So as part of the Tech Pathways project, I've been working a lot with teachers and non-formal educators. And I think that's also kind of an interesting angle to look at, because what we found is that actually a majority of the non-formal educators that we've been working with have been female, not exclusively, but a majority. So if you're looking at people who maybe work with libraries or in youth services, a lot in voluntary roles, which is also interesting there. But there's something interesting, I think, in terms of the teachers that we work with. What we tend to find is that the teachers who are specialising in tech are majority male. Even when you get down to primary level, you've got a majority of primary teachers by a huge margin are female, but actually not necessarily a majority of computing leads in primary school. And I kind of wanted to speak to something that Becky was talking about earlier, in terms of kind of we can't have conventional paths in that sort of way. And actually, I think part of it is that we need to recognise, we as sort of collective society as a whole, that conventional paths aren't the only way to things. So we started off with everybody sort of talking about the interesting and unconventional ways that they ended up where they are. I actually dug out, as every self-respecting clown has, my red nose from my drawer. But I think we see that even from primary forwards, that all of the kind of small unconscious biases that drop into things that have a massive trickle-down impact as children go through education. So if we have this notion that I'm sure most people don't carry with them at the front of their brain, but that might sit there that, you know, sort of maths and physics are slightly more like boys' subjects, and that music and art or languages might be slightly more girls' subjects. And then we have this notion that the fact that you're good at maths is the only indicator that you would be good at computing. Then suddenly we end up with no girls in computing, because we've already got these unconscious biases and that are sort of steeped in these more embedded subjects. Whereas a recognition that actually there's no one skill set that makes you good for a career in tech. There's no one way of growing through. And that's one of the things with tech pathways that we've tried to do. I'll do a shameless plug, and anybody who's interested, please go to techpathways.london and check out the website. But we've done interviews with people who work in digital careers. And what we're really trying to do is, and these are for teachers, these are as resources for the classroom, for educators to be able to use. And what we've really tried to do is highlight that there's no one thing that being in a tech career means, and that there's also no one route into it. So we've got kind of digital journalists, we've got people who work, I've got someone who works for Nature, who makes their podcasts and makes their films, and people who work as coders and developers and things like that. And looking at kind of the journeys that they've gone on, and trying to support educators as well in kind of seeing what that endpoint is. So looking at the skills that those people have expressed that they had, or the things that they did when they were younger, kind of outside of school, that were maybe of interest and help them get into their careers, and really giving that to educators as a toolkit for them, to help them support the young people that they're working with. Sorry, that was a slightly rambly answer, but it's a massive topic.
It is a massive topic, and that's the thing. I mean, I think it gets a bit hard because we all know this area, we're all very passionate about this area, and then at the same time sometimes it feels a bit uncomfortable if you think you're a subject matter expert, but actually everyone in this panel really is and has so much to say, and so thank you very much. Emma, right, I'm thinking more about teacher training and the makeup of women and what it's like being a sort of female in the ed tech. What do you think is going on at the moment in education, and what maybe needs to change?
Well, I think the first thing really interesting is the tech industry. I imagine an awful that you would speak to would not say that they really work in tech. But actually, for the last 4 months, I don't think there'll be a single teacher anywhere across the country, regardless of what key stage they're working in, that hasn't had to work with tech at some point. So I think that there's a couple of issues here for starters that have been raised just around the knowledge, skills and expertise that teachers have to confidently work with technology. For starters, regardless of whether they're a computer science teacher or an ICT teacher or whatever. So that's one of the issues. I think one of the things it has really raised is that there needs to be a lot more training for teachers across all subject areas. Doesn't matter whether you're a science teacher or an English teacher or a maths teacher, having that awareness of how technology can support your subject area. Because I think very much what we do as teachers is we are role models for our pupils. And I think where it starts, and we've got some interesting chat on the side there about age groups and teaching with different age groups. One of the things we do at Denby is obviously we work with year 7 upwards. So that's sort of 12, 13-year-old pupils coming in. We are also a very heavily BAME school. Well over 3/4 of our student population are from an Asian background, English as an additional language. So we're not just looking at girls and a sort of career route into technology. We're looking at aspiration in general, sort of perhaps a family background, a career path that would be expected, the route they're going to go down. Much looking at actually raising aspiration and raising awareness about of what is out there for our female pupils, obviously, as well as for our male pupils as well. But I think part of the problem for teachers is that they're having to take on so much. You know, they're having to become much more proficient with the use of technology, but they also need to be aware of not just the jobs that exist in their subject area, because as teachers they're also supposed to be educating children right from primary upwards about what job roles are available, but also all those job roles are going to involve technology. So it's not just that the teachers have got to be aware of what the job roles are, they've got to be becoming fully proficient in how is technology used in those job roles. And that's a huge ask. And I think that the more that can be done to support teachers and also other support staff in schools with learning more widely about the what is available in careers, the better. Because again, we talk a lot about careers pathways, and traditionally if you had a child who wanted to go on and be a doctor, yes, there's a career pathway that you can send them towards. But I know, for example, in my role, I couldn't have sat there at 12, 13, 16, 18 and said, yes, I want to be a director of technology for learning, because that job didn't exist. So I think it goes back to what Caitlin was saying about the wide range of skills and supporting teachers with providing pupils with as wide a range of skills as possible. So and sort of changing this mindset of a fixed career pathway, particularly for girls, because again, certainly in some of our girls, there is an expectation as to the sort of role they will go into as they grow up. And again, we're trying to break down some of those barriers a bit. But I think we need to start really with support for staff in schools around that raising awareness, and there's a lot happening already at the moment, with upskilling teachers, with upskilling staff in schools to use technology more effectively. But I think anything that the tech industry can do to also keep continuing to make those links with schools to support teachers with being aware of what roles are out there, I think that can only be a good thing.
Here it's a thing I'm always going on about. Completely, yeah, you agree. And it's interesting, actually, isn't it, Caitlin? I will come to you. It is interesting how confidence is coming up, not knowing what's out there. That the same messages, be it for students, for teachers, for people new in business or further on in their journey, and actually how I think working together can really help. Caitlin, before you forget.
That's all right. I'll be very quick. And I think it's totally right, as always. One of the things that I was going to say is that joined up thinking across subject, I actually see a lot more at primary, which is interesting, because the teachers aren't kind of siloed into their own subject areas. So at the CLC, we run kind of a humanities conference and an English forum and a maths forum, where we talk to teachers about how they can use technology to support their teaching in those subjects, which are really popular, but you kind of watch that dwindle in secondary, not from any fault of the teachers, but I think because computing ends up getting kind of siloed. But also, one activity that we did that I can urge everybody to do if you're ever doing a session around something like this is at the beginning of one of our conferences, we got everybody to write on a post-it note what they wanted to be when they were like 8. So what was the first job that you wanted to have? And we got them to stick it up on a board. And then we looked at those jobs and discussed whether or not those jobs would now use technology. So it was a group of teachers for whom, when they were making that decision, computers wouldn't have been ubiquitous. It wouldn't have been a thing that would have involved technology. And basically, we didn't find a job that people wanted to do at that age that now wouldn't in some way involve tech. And it's just about, as we've been talking about, redefining what that idea of being a person who works either in digital or with digital, because as a friend of mine has said, essentially all jobs involve sending emails, so all jobs now are digital. So that's a really nice, easy activity that you can do that's quite powerful, I think.
I like that a lot, and I think that's one of the things that I've done with like my career, is trying to impart, particularly to women, that they are technologists. It is very hard to do a job now without doing that, and teaching it is integrated. It's not a bolt-on. And though with lockdown, teachers have been pushed to the sort of boundaries of their expertise with it, that will continue. We are seeing that the next 6 months are still going to be up and down, and people are just going to have to get on board and do it. If they, you can't teach, you can't reach, as Kaz Keep in our collective said, and it's absolutely true. Jess, I was just looking at what you're saying, and we had a comment about age. We are going to finish up pretty quickly, but what's your comment in here in the chat? Because I thought
about age. Oh, I was just talking about our core aims and things. Specifically on the age thing, I remember an old boss of mine saying, if you haven't been an entrepreneur by the age of 25, then you never will be. and me being absolutely outraged by it. This perception that you can only do it when you're young and dynamic is just such rubbish. If I look back now, had I tried to do what I've done over the last 2-3 years, 15 years ago, I just would have got absolutely nowhere. And I think it's just ludicrous to think that it's not even later stage, is it? Just once you've got a bit of experience under your belt that you can't do something differently. What I see time and time again, so we've got probably almost 3,000 people registered with us, and about 95% of them are women. Half of those women have taken the experience that they acquired, mostly pre-children, because that's a huge part of our audience, parents, and they've taken that and they've reshaped it and they've bolted on some whole new skills, and they've created this whole new career for themselves and this new way of working. And I just think that's how things are now. People don't do one thing and they don't stick to it, and I think it's really short-sighted of people to think that. I think that journey that we go on, gathering new skills, gathering new experiences, and broadening out as we experience things in different roles and different places that we work, is just how things are. And I also am a big advocate of motherhood. It transforms you in a way that you will never, ever know at any other point in your life. And I think embracing the skills that brings to you and to your life is equally as important as all of the things, all of the different places you work. So age is just irrelevant.
I think I've realised that I've been on the kind of evolution revolution, not just knowing Kat and doing the GC, although that's kind of crystallised it all, but before that as well. Right, we're getting to the last few minutes. And it's been amazing speaking to everyone. Kat, I thought at the end you and I could maybe talk a little bit about the GEC. Is there anything on the GEC you want to mention at this point?
Yes, I would like everyone to join our collective, everyone who's listening, and if you believe in these topics and you want to talk more about it and you want to come on more things like this where we all get excited about solving problems with diversity and inclusion, please go to thegec.org/join-the-collective. I need to change that URL, but it's linked to everywhere, so I need to put a mapping in. Anyway, that's where we are. I did put it in the chat. So yes, please do. And if you're already in the collective and you enjoy being part of it, then please do recommend us to other people, because we want to get all the like-minded people all together into our group.
Thank you very much, Kat. I knew you said it a lot better than I could. And just thank you to everyone on the panel. I've tried to get around you all as much as I can. And I know we've only just really sort of tickled the top of the icebergs with what you know and what you could contribute with this. Kat and I are looking at doing further webinars and events as we go into the autumn. So as Kat said, if you'd like to join us, we have got a load of free resources and materials on the website. We've got the free search directory of the collective. And if you would like anything else, let us know. On our social media channels, we will promote this once the recording is sent over to us. So I'd just like to thank everyone for their time, and see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.